As I sat on my porch, sipping my usual cup of tea, and watching the sun dip below the horizon, a wave of disappointment washed over me. Just moments before, I had heard my grandson, Ethan, laughing with his friends. And then it happened. He called me crazy, Grandma. The sting of those words hung in the air, heavy and sharp. I could still hear the laughter that trailed behind it, as if it were a ghost haunting me. Oh, how quickly he had forgotten the stories of our family, the legacy I had tried to instill in him. I thought back to my childhood, a time when I fought against the relentless tide of societal norms and expectations. In my heart, I carried the weight of my own mother's struggles, how she had been ridiculed for her eccentricities. I had promised myself I would never let those words define me, nor would I allow them to define Ethan. Sitting there, I resolved to teach him a lesson, not through anger, but through understanding and love. I wanted him to see the beauty in our family legacy, to understand that being crazy was sometimes just another word for being passionate or different. I took a deep breath, letting the cool evening air fill my lungs, and began to formulate a plan. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. What would it take for him to understand my world? I thought about the stories I had tucked away, the adventures that shaped me, the wisdom that came from years of living. I knew I needed to share those experiences with him, to turn the sting of his words into a bridge rather than a wall. I imagined the evenings we could spend together, the laughter we could share, as I unveiled the layers of my life, stories of courage, resilience, and love. I wanted Ethan to see that my quirks and eccentricities were not something to be ashamed of, but rather a tapestry that made up our family history. So I decided to embrace the crazy. I would show him how to celebrate our uniqueness, how to find strength in vulnerability. I would invite him into my world, a world filled with colorful memories and vibrant stories. As the last light of day faded and the stars began to twinkle overhead, I felt a sense of purpose wash over me. This was the moment I had been waiting for, a chance to reconnect, to teach, and to heal. I would not let his fleeting words define our relationship. Instead, I would turn them into a catalyst for growth. In the days to come, I would share with Ethan the lessons I had learned through my life's journey. I would tell him about the time I stood up for what was right, despite the mockery of peers. I would recount the moments of joy that came from embracing my individuality, how those experiences had shaped me into the woman I was today. And as I made my plan, I couldn't help but wonder, would he embrace the lessons I had to offer? Would he see that being crazy was just another word for being alive, fully alive? I smiled to myself, the warmth of determination filling my heart. I would show him the beauty in our family's legacy, the strength in our differences, and perhaps, just perhaps, he would learn to wear the title of Crazy Grandma with pride. It's funny how a single word can ripple through the years, reshaping a relationship. When Ethan called me Crazy Grandma in front of his friends, it stung deeper than he could know. I decided it was time for a journey, a trip down memory lane to show him just how vibrant and rich our family history really is. As we pulled up to the old family home, I felt a wave of nostalgia wash over me. The creaking wooden porch, the familiar scent of aged wood and memories, it all came rushing back. Can you believe I used to play hide and seek in the backyard? I asked Ethan, pointing toward the old oak tree that had grown taller and sturdier over the years. His eyes glazed over. For a moment, the disinterest written all over his face, but I wasn't discouraged. I knew that beneath that facade, Curiosity lingered. "Let's go inside," I said, pushing open the door. The familiar squeak greeted us like an old friend, and I inhaled deeply. The air held the weight of my childhood, filled with laughter and tears. "Why do we have to do this?" he muttered, shuffling his feet. I turned to him, my heart aching a little. "Because, Ethan, this house is a part of you. Every corner has a story that shaped who we are. It's not just walls and furniture. It's legacy." As we moved through the rooms, I started pointing out the family photos lining the walls. Each image was a snapshot of resilience, courage, and individuality. There were pictures of my grandmother standing proudly beside my grandfather, her apron still on from a day spent baking. "Look at her," I said, smiling at the memory of her laughter. "She was a force of nature. She taught me that being different isn't a flaw. It's a badge of honor." She was considered crazy for her eccentric ways, but she was also the wisest woman I've ever known. Ethan glanced at the picture, his frown softening. "What do you mean?" I took a moment to gather my thoughts. "She always said that to be yourself in a world that tries to make you like everyone else is the greatest accomplishment. She faced ridicule but carried herself with dignity. It's a lesson I wish to pass down to you." His eyes widened slightly, and I sensed a shift as he began to absorb my words. We paused at the kitchen table where I had once cooked meals with my mother, her wisdom woven into every dish. "Right here," I said, running my fingers over the worn wood, "is where I learned to make her famous chicken soup. She would always say, 'A meal made with love can heal any wound.'" Ethan seemed to ponder this, a hint of intrigue breaking through his earlier detachment. "Did it really?" I chuckled softly. "Well, it might not solve every problem, but it sure brought our family together. We'd gather around this table sharing stories and laughing until our bellies hurt. It was our sanctuary." "Was it always like that?" he asked, his voice softer now. "Not always," I admitted, my mind drifting back to the tough times. There were struggles, heartaches, and moments when our family felt fractured. But through it all, we learned to embrace our differences, to celebrate them. That's what makes us who we are. I watched as Ethan processed my words, his brow furrowing in thought. "You're saying being different is good?" "Absolutely," I replied, my voice steady. "It's what makes us unique. Our family has always been a tapestry of stories, each thread vital, each color distinct. It's our legacy." As we continued walking, I could see the transformation in him. The initial disinterest faded, replaced by a budding curiosity. "Tell me more about your grandmother," he said. I smiled, grateful for his question. "Oh, there's so much to share. She taught me how to stand tall, even when the world tried to knock me down. She showed me that love is the strongest force, and that's what I want you to understand. The journey into our past wasn't just about nostalgia. It was about building a bridge to our future, one that Ethan could walk across, hand in hand, with the legacy of our family." As we continued our journey, I gathered my friends around the table, each one a beacon of resilience, their stories woven into the fabric of their lives. The air was filled with the rich aroma of tea, mingling with laughter and the warmth of shared experiences. I watched Ethan closely, his eyes darting from one face to another, absorbing the tales like a sponge. "Tell us, Ethan," I encouraged. "What do you think about Mrs. Thompson's story?" He hesitated, glancing at the elderly woman who had just shared her battle with illness. It's inspiring. he finally said, his voice soft yet earnest. Mrs. Thompson smiled, her eyes twinkling. Inspiration comes from the heart, dear. It's about how you rise after the fall. Ethan seemed to contemplate her words, the wheels in his mind visibly turning. I could sense a shift in him, a budding understanding that every life is a tapestry of struggles and triumphs. I leaned in closer. Each of us has faced our own demons. What about you, Ethan? What do you think your story is? He shifted uncomfortably, his fingers fidgeting with the edge of the tablecloth. I guess I haven't really thought about it. Maybe it's time you do, I urged gently. Remember, the world is vast and diverse. Every person you meet has a unique story worth telling. Your perspective is just the beginning. As the conversations flowed, I noticed Ethan's growing interest. He began asking questions, delving deeper into their lives, wanting to know more about their journeys. How did you cope with that, Mr. Jenkins? He asked, his voice gaining confidence. Mr. Jenkins, a retired firefighter, leaned back, a thoughtful look crossing his face. It wasn't easy, son. Every scar tells a story. I learned that vulnerability is strength, and my struggles shaped who I am today. I watched Ethan absorb this, his expression shifting from skepticism to curiosity. He was beginning to realize that the world didn't revolve around him and his friends. It was so much larger, filled with stories of pain and perseverance. Tell me about your biggest challenge, Ethan probed, and I could see him drawing connections between their experiences and his own life. As the evening wore on, my friends shared tales of heartbreak and hope. There was a gentle rhythm to our conversation, a blend of laughter and tears. I felt a swell of pride for each of them, and a flicker of hope for Ethan. Did you know, I said, that every one of us has faced moments that could have broken us? Yet here we are, sitting together, sharing our journeys. Ethan nodded, slowly, the realization dawning on him. I guess I never thought about it that way. It's the stories that connect us, I explained. They remind us that we're not alone in our struggles. We all have something to learn from each other. The atmosphere was thick with understanding, and I could sense Ethan's heart beginning to soften. He was starting to see that labeling someone as crazy or different only serves to create distance. Why do you think we're all here together? I asked, my voice steady yet inviting. To share our stories? He ventured, a hint of realization creeping into his tone. Exactly, I replied, smiling. And to learn from one another. Remember, Ethan, empathy is the bridge that connects us to others. As you listen, you grow. You begin to understand the depth of life. He leaned back in his chair, a thoughtful look on his face. For the first time, I could see his perspective shifting, slowly but surely. Do you think I'll ever have a story like yours? He asked, his tone now tinged with hope. Of course you will. Your story is already unfolding. Embrace it and don't be afraid to share it. As the evening drew to a close, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The seeds of understanding had been planted, and I could only hope they would take root in Ethan's heart. I was filled with hope for the change that was unfolding within him, and I couldn't wait to see the person he would become. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm golden hue through the window, I felt the familiar weight of my memories pressing against my heart. I turned to Ethan, who had just finished telling his friends about crazy grandma. My heart ached at the thought of how easily that term rolled off his tongue, a reflection of youth that I once knew all too well. Ethan, I began, my voice steady but soft. You know, when I was your age, I was called crazy, too. It was during a time when standing up for what I believed in meant facing not just ridicule, but a world that was often unkind. I remember this one day vividly. I had gathered with a group of friends at the town square, our energy vibrant, our hearts full of hope. We were young activists, passionate about social justice, ready to take on the world. We were protesting against an unjust policy that marginalized our community. I stood there, my heart pounding as I spoke out, my voice trembling, but fierce. People laughed at us, called us names. I can still hear their taunts echoing through the square. "Look at those crazy kids," they'd shout. Those words stung. I felt a mix of confusion and determination. How could they not see the truth we were trying to share? I was just a girl wanting to make a difference, but to them I was just crazy. I paused, watching Ethan's eyes widen slightly as he absorbed my story. You see, Ethan, being labeled crazy is often a reflection of others' fears and ignorance. It's the easy way out for those who can't understand or accept something different. I leaned closer to him, hoping to reach the part of his heart that still held the innocence of childhood. Do you remember that time you felt misunderstood? Maybe it was at school or even with your friends. I asked gently, wanting him to connect with my experience. The laughter that often danced in his eyes seemed to fade, replaced by a contemplative silence. Think about it, I continued. Those moments when you felt like no one was on your side. It can be lonely, can't it? He nodded slowly, his expression shifting. It's crucial to see that our stories connect us, I emphasized. Being different, standing out, it's a courageous act of authenticity. It's not crazy, it's brave. I could feel the weight of my words settling between us, bridging the gap that had formed with his careless remark. I told him about the aftermath of that protest, the conversations I had, the friendships forged, and even the way my heart swelled when someone came up to me after and said, "Thank you for speaking up. You're not crazy. You're inspiring." Ethan's gaze dropped to the floor, and I could see the gears turning in his mind. I wanted him to understand that the path of standing up for justice is never smooth, but it's worthwhile. Every time you feel like you're being judged for being different, remember my story. Remember that you're part of a lineage of those who dared to speak out. Your voice matters. He looked up at me, a flicker of understanding sparking in his eyes. So being called crazy can mean I'm doing something right? Exactly, I said, a smile breaking through the heaviness. It means you're challenging the norm, and that's something to be proud of. As I watched him process my words, I realized that this moment was a turning point, not just for him, but for our relationship. I had shared my heart, my past, and in return, I hoped to plant a seed of courage within him, a legacy of standing up for what is right, no matter how crazy it may seem to others. And I couldn't help but wonder, what would he choose to stand for when his time came? It was a chilly Saturday morning when I suggested to Ethan that we volunteer together at the local food bank. I could see the reluctance in his eyes, a mix of defiance and curiosity. "Do we have to, Grandma? It sounds boring," he muttered, shuffling his feet. I took a deep breath, reminding myself that this was a pivotal moment, one that could shift his perspective. "Ethan, I promise you, it won't be boring. It's about helping people who need it most, and you might even learn something valuable." I watched as he hesitated, caught between the comfort of his screen and the unknown world outside. "Fine," he finally said, rolling his eyes, but I could sense a flicker of interest beneath his reluctance. As we arrived at the food bank, the scent of fresh produce mingled with the warmth of baked bread. The bustling atmosphere was alive with volunteers sorting food, laughter echoing through the room. I could feel Ethan's tension begin to ease as he stepped inside, his curiosity piquing. Together we started sorting canned goods. I watched him for a moment, his brow furrowed in concentration. I knew he was thinking about how this was far from the video games he loved. But gradually, as we worked side by side, I noticed something shifting in him. "Do you think they really need this stuff?" he asked, glancing at the rows of food we were organizing. "It's not just about the food, Ethan. It's about the people behind it. Each can, each box, represents a family, a story." "You'll see," I replied, my heart swelling with hope as we interacted with families coming in for assistance. I encouraged Ethan to listen. I watched as he spoke to a little girl around his age, her eyes wide with excitement over a bag of apples. They laughed together, and in that moment I felt a bridge forming between Ethan and the world outside his own. "Why do they need help?" he asked me later, his voice quieter, more contemplative. I took a deep breath. "Ethan, sometimes life throws challenges at people that they can't handle alone. It could be illness, job loss, or other hardships. We're here to remind them they're not alone." As we continued our work, I saw him grappling with his previous beliefs, the stereotypes he'd unknowingly held. The more he engaged, the more compassion seemed to grow in his heart. I could see the internal conflict playing out on his face. He was starting to understand that everyone has struggles, regardless of how they appear on the surface. After a long day, we sat down for a moment of rest. I turned to him and asked, "What do you think about all this?" He looked thoughtful, gazing at the families around us. "I didn't realize... I thought it was just about giving food, but it's more than that. It's like sharing hope." I felt a wave of pride wash over me. This project was transforming not just our community, but Ethan's perception of the world. It was about connection and understanding, a lesson far richer than any I could teach him in the confines of our home. The laughter of children echoed around us, and I watched as Ethan joined in a game, his previous hesitations melting away. This was more than just service. It was about discovery. I knew then that he was beginning to see the beauty in the diversity of life, the stories that united us all. As we packed up to leave, I placed my hand on his shoulder. "This is just the beginning, Ethan. There's so much more we can do together." He smiled, a genuine warmth in his expression. "Yeah, I think I'd like that." And in that moment I realized that my son was no longer just a boy calling me crazy grandma. He was becoming a young man who could see the world beyond himself, a world filled with stories waiting to be heard. As our community project progressed, I could see the subtle shifts in Ethan. He was becoming more engaged, more thoughtful. But there was still that lingering term he had used to describe me: crazy. It weighed heavily in my heart like a stone, and I knew I had to address it. One afternoon after we had finished volunteering at the local food bank, I decided that it was time for a heart-to-heart. "Ethan," I began, motioning for him to sit beside me on the worn-out bench under our oak tree. The sun was setting, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, but I could feel the weight of the conversation looming over us. "I want to talk about something important." He looked at me, confusion mingling with curiosity. "What's up, Grandma?" "It's about what you called me the other day, you know, when you told your friends I was crazy." I watched as he squirmed slightly, the realization of his words hitting home. What do you think that means? How does it make you feel?" He hesitated, his eyes darting to the ground. "I don't know. I didn't mean it like that. I thought it was funny." "Funny?" I echoed, trying to keep my voice steady. "Ethan, words have power. They can lift someone up or tear them down. How do you think I felt when you said that?" He shifted again, guilt creeping into his expression. "I didn't think it would hurt you. Sometimes the things we say without thinking can hurt the ones we love the most," I explained gently. "When you call me crazy, it feels like a label. Labels can be limiting, can't they? They can trap us in a box and keep us from seeing who we really are." Ethan frowned, the gears of his mind turning. "But I see you as more than that. You do all this amazing stuff with the community." "Exactly," I said, encouraged by his words. "And I want you to remember that. We all have complex stories. When we label someone, we risk forgetting the richness of their experience. Your grandmother is not just a crazy old lady. I've lived a life filled with love, loss, and triumph. I've learned valuable lessons that I want to share with you." He looked thoughtful, and I could sense a shift in his perspective. I guess I never really thought of it like that. "It's easy to forget," I admitted. "But part of growing up is understanding the impact of our words. You have the power to redefine your perspective, Ethan. I want you to think about how you speak about others and about yourself, because the language we choose shapes our reality." He nodded slowly, his brow furrowed. "So, what do I do?" "Start by choosing your words carefully. When you talk about people, think about the stories behind them. Look beyond the surface. The next time you want to call someone something, ask yourself, what do I really mean? What's the truth beneath the label?" The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows around us. I could see understanding dawning in his eyes. "I'll try, Grandma. I promise." "And it's okay to make mistakes. We all do. Just remember that when you label someone, you're also inviting others to see them that way. You have the power to uplift or diminish, to create bridges or walls." Ethan leaned back against the bench, contemplating my words. "It feels like a lot of responsibility." "It is," I said softly, "but it's also a chance to change the world, even in small ways, and I believe you can do it." As we sat together in the fading light, I felt a sense of hope blossoming between us. This conversation had opened a door, and I could see that Ethan was beginning to understand not just the weight of words, but the significance of choosing them wisely. Maybe, just maybe, he would carry this lesson forward, both for himself and for the world around him. I remember the day Ethan approached me with a heaviness in his heart, his eyes glistening with sincerity. It was the afternoon sun casting a warm glow, but the warmth I felt came from within. He hesitated, his words stumbling over the weight of their meaning. "Grandma," he said softly, "I'm sorry for calling you crazy grandma to my friends." His apology pierced through the layers of hurt that had built up since that moment. I felt a wave of emotion wash over me, emotions I had tucked away, hoping they would fade. Instead, they blossomed into something beautiful, a chance for healing. I embraced him tightly, feeling the pulse of his youthful energy against my chest. "It's okay, sweetheart," I whispered. "It's okay to make mistakes, as long as we learn from them." In that embrace, I could sense the shift in our relationship. It wasn't just an apology. It was a bridge being built, a testament to growth. I remembered my own journey, the times I had stumbled, the moments I had to muster the courage to apologize. "You know," I said gently, I've made mistakes too. It's how we learn. It's how we grow. He looked up at me, his brow furrowing as he processed my words. Like when you yelled at me for breaking your vase. I chuckled softly, recalling the chaos of that day, the shards of glass, and the panic in both our hearts. Exactly! I shouldn't have reacted that way. I was upset, but I should have taken a breath first. We all have moments we wish we could take back. Ethan nodded, his expression shifting from confusion to understanding. So, it's okay to say sorry if you mean it? Absolutely, I replied, my voice steady. In fact, it's one of the most important things we can do. Apologizing opens the door to forgiveness and understanding. It's how we show love and respect for one another. I could see the wheels turning in his mind, the gears of his young heart beginning to grasp the complexities of human emotions. So, if I say I'm sorry, does that mean you forgive me? Forgiveness is more than just saying the words, I explained, feeling the need to delve deeper. It's about feeling it in your heart. It's about letting go of the hurt. I forgive you, Ethan, but it's important to remember this moment. Use it to grow, to be kinder to those around you. The world outside our window faded away as our conversation deepened. We began to talk about our family history, about the legacy of love and resilience that flowed through us. I shared stories of my own childhood, of my grandmother's gentle wisdom, and how she had taught me the power of forgiveness. Grandma, why do you think we make mistakes? Ethan asked, his curiosity piqued. It's part of being human, darling. We learn by trying, by failing, and then trying again. Each mistake is a lesson wrapped in a moment of discomfort. But if we listen and reflect, we can turn those moments into something beautiful. He was quiet for a moment, processing my words. Do you think I'll make the same mistakes when I'm older? Perhaps, I replied thoughtfully. But that's okay. What matters is that you remember the lessons. It's the love that binds our family, and the understanding that will guide you through life. Ethan straightened up, a newfound determination in his eyes. I want to be better, Grandma. I smiled, my heart swelling with pride. You already are. This moment marks a turning point for us, Ethan. We're growing together, and that's a beautiful thing. As we sat together, the sun began to dip lower in the sky, casting golden rays that danced through the window. I felt the warmth of love enveloping us, and for the first time in a long while, I saw the future not just as a series of challenges, but as a tapestry woven from understanding, forgiveness, and shared growth. In that moment, I knew our bond had transformed, and I couldn't have been more grateful. I remember the day Ethan called me crazy grandma, like it was yesterday. A moment that sliced through my heart, leaving a scar I thought would never heal. But I wasn't about to let that label define me or our relationship. Instead, it sparked a fire within me, a determination to show him the strength of our bond. With our connection deepening, I knew it was time to create new memories that would outshine those hurtful words. We started a tradition of weekly story nights, a sacred space where Ethan could share what he'd learned during our volunteering, and I would weave tales from my youth, stories filled with laughter, lessons, and love. As he spoke, I watched his eyes light up, each word a bridge connecting us further. He began to share not just facts, but his dreams and aspirations. I could feel the weight of his fears lifting, the burden of feeling different, slowly dissipating. It was during these nights that I could see him embracing his identity, no longer hiding behind judgment or shame. Grandma, do you think I could ever be a scientist? He asked one evening, his voice a mixture of hope and uncertainty. Of course, sweetheart. You have the curiosity and passion to explore the world. Remember, every great scientist started as a dreamer, just like you, I replied, my heart swelling with pride. We spent those nights wrapped in the warmth of each other's stories, the air thick with nostalgia. I shared my childhood adventures, the mischief I got into, and the lessons learned from my own missteps. It was not only a way to pass on wisdom, but a way to show him that imperfections are part of being human. Did you really climb that mountain when you were my age? He asked, wide-eyed. Absolutely, and I fell more times than I can count, but each fall taught me something new. I laughed, the sound ringing through the room as he giggled at the image of me tumbling down a hill. Every shared story became a lesson, the kind that lingered long after the night ended. I encouraged him to express himself freely, to voice his hopes without the fear of judgment. I wanted him to know that his voice mattered, that he was worthy of being heard. As the weeks passed, I noticed a transformation in Ethan. He was shedding the layers of doubt and insecurity that had clouded his spirit. He began to walk taller, his laughter growing more vibrant. Each story reinforced the idea that our experiences, both good and bad, shape who we are. Grandma, I want to do something big when I grow up, something that helps people, he declared, one night, his eyes shining with resolve. You already are, my dear. Every time you lend a hand or share a smile, you touch someone's life. Just keep dreaming, and never forget where you came from, I encouraged, feeling the weight of legacy in those words. These nights became more than just storytelling. They were the foundation of trust and love that would last a lifetime. I could see our family legacy taking root in him, a blend of our past and his future. With every tale, I was reminded of my own journey, the struggles, the triumphs, the heartbreaks that shaped me. I wanted Ethan to understand that life is a tapestry, woven from all our experiences, colorful threads of joy and sorrow. And so, as I watched him transform, I realized that those weekly story nights were not just about sharing memories. They were about building a future where he could stand proud, unafraid of being different. In those moments, I found healing too, a way to reclaim my identity as more than just crazy grandma. I was a storyteller, a nurturer, and above all, his biggest supporter. As I reflected on the journey we were taking together, I couldn't help but wonder, what other memories would we create? What new stories lay just beyond the horizon, waiting for us to discover them together? As our story nights continued, I encouraged Ethan to apply the lessons he learned in his daily life. Each evening I would watch his eyes light up with understanding as we explored themes of resilience, courage, and the importance of standing up for what's right. I could see him absorbing every word, and it filled me with hope. One day, he came home from school with a furrowed brow. I could sense there was something weighing on him, so I invited him to sit with me on the porch, the sun dipping low in the sky, casting golden rays across our familiar space. "What's bothering you, sweetheart?" I asked gently, trying to coax the words out of him. "It's about Jamie," he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. "He's been getting picked on by some kids." No one saying anything. The moment hung in the air, heavy with the weight of unspoken fears and moral dilemmas. I remembered the stories we'd shared, tales of brave souls who faced injustice head-on, who found their strength in vulnerability. "Ethan," I said, leaning closer, "this is your chance to be the hero you've read about. You know what's right. You've learned that true bravery often comes from a place of fear." He hesitated, his internal conflict evident. I could see him weighing the risk of standing up against the fear of being ostracized. But Grandma, what if they laugh at me? What if they turn on me too? I took a deep breath and placed my hand on his shoulder, feeling the warmth of his uncertainty. Sometimes it's the fear that makes our actions matter even more. When we speak up, we're not just standing for ourselves, but for those who feel they can't. You have the power to change the narrative, Ethan. He looked out at the horizon, where the last remnants of sunlight faded into twilight. I could see his mind racing, grappling with the weight of the choice before him. "Okay," he finally said, his voice firmer than before. "I'll talk to Jamie. I'll say something." Pride swelled within me as I watched him make that decision. The next day, he approached Jamie during lunch. I could hardly breathe as I waited for him to come home, imagining all the possible outcomes. Would he stand tall? Would he falter? When he finally walked through the door, his face was flushed with excitement. "Grandma, you won't believe what happened." "What is it, my brave boy?" I asked, eager to hear every detail. I told Jamie he didn't deserve to be treated that way. I stood up for him. His words spilled out in a rush, and I could see the light in his eyes. It was as though he had unlocked a part of himself he didn't know existed. And then, other kids started to join in. They all said they would be there for him too. My heart swelled with joy. "You see, Ethan? You inspired others to do the right thing. You didn't just help Jamie. You brought a whole group together." He smiled, but then a shadow crossed his face. "But what if those bullies come after me now?" I took a moment to reflect, knowing that this was a crucial part of his growth. It's possible, but remember, standing up for justice is never easy. You might face hardship, but you will also gain respect, and you'll have friends who stand by you. You're not alone in this fight. Ethan nodded, the reality settling in. I could see the internal shift taking place in him. He was transforming from a boy who feared the world into a young man who understood the importance of standing up for justice. As he shared more about his day and how the tide had turned, I felt the warmth of nostalgia wash over me. I remembered my own battles, the times I had to summon courage from within. It was a cycle, a legacy passed down, and I couldn't have been prouder to witness his growth. This was more than just a schoolyard incident. It was a pivotal moment in Ethan's life. He was learning that true bravery lies not in the absence of fear, but in the decision to act despite it. And I knew this was just the beginning. In the weeks that followed, I watched Ethan blossom into a genuinely compassionate and understanding young man. It was a remarkable transformation, and I felt a sense of pride swelling in my heart every time I noticed the small, yet significant changes in him. Our conversations became deeper, and we often reflected on the journey we had traveled together. "Do you remember when I called you crazy grandma?" he asked one afternoon, a hint of embarrassment creeping into his voice. "Oh, how could I forget? You were so convinced that I was out of touch." I chuckled, recalling the incredulous look on his face when I stood up for my beliefs at the town hall meeting. Ethan nodded, a smile breaking through his initial discomfort. "I didn't understand back then. I thought you were just being, well, crazy." "Crazy, huh? Funny how life has a way of turning those judgments on their heads," I replied, my tone gentle yet knowing. "Tell me, what do you see now?" Paused, contemplating my question. "I see someone who stands up for what she believes in, no matter what anyone else thinks. You taught me that, as we sat together on the porch, the sun casting a warm glow around us. I shared my own reflections. You know, Ethan, my experiences shaped my worldview in ways I couldn't have imagined. Each hardship and joy, each moment of despair and hope, they all wove together to create a tapestry of lessons. And now, those lessons are part of our shared legacy. His eyes sparkled with curiosity. What do you mean by legacy? Legacy isn't just about what we leave behind, but how we influence those around us, I explained. It's about empathy and understanding. In a world that often feels divided, we must learn to connect with one another, to truly listen. Ethan leaned in, absorbing my words. But how do we do that, Grandma? I took a deep breath, remembering the struggles I faced in my youth. It starts with embracing our individuality. Never shy away from speaking your truth, Ethan. Your voice matters. It can bridge gaps and heal wounds. He nodded, a newfound determination lighting up his face. I want to do that. I want to help others understand, just like you helped me. Sense of fulfillment washed over me. It was a testament to the power of love, understanding, and the willingness to learn from one another. We were building something beautiful, and it was rooted in our shared growth. I looked out at the sprawling fields, the familiar scent of wildflowers enveloping us. Do you remember those days when we'd sit in the garden, planting seeds and talking about dreams? Of course, you always said that plants need nurturing, just like people do. He replied with a grin. Exactly, my dear. Just like in gardening, we must cultivate our relationships with care. It's about patience, understanding, and sometimes even forgiving mistakes. Ethan's face turned serious. I've made my share of mistakes, haven't I? We all have, I said softly. What matters is how we learn from them. You've grown so much, and I'm proud of the young man you are becoming. I'm grateful for you, Grandma. You've opened my eyes to so many things I never considered. I think about our talks a lot. Was I truly making a difference? Just by being here, Ethan, you're already making a difference. Your willingness to listen and grow is powerful. Remember, every small step counts. It's a journey we're on together. He smiled, and I could see the bond between us strengthening with every conversation. It was more than just a grandmother and grandson. We were allies in a world that often felt overwhelming. As we continued to talk, I felt a wave of nostalgia wash over me, each word we exchanged echoing the lessons of the past and the promise of the future. Our discussions deepened our connection, allowing us to navigate the complexities of life side by side. In that moment, I realized that the journey we were on was not merely about correcting misunderstandings, but about embracing the beauty of transformation. How could I have known that one phrase, crazy grandma, would lead us here? Telling and preparing this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. As our journey together continued, I wanted to ensure that Ethan understood the importance of our family legacy. I could see the world through his young eyes, a world that seemed so vast and complicated. But amidst everything, I wanted him to know where he came from and the rich history that shaped us. That's when I decided to create a scrapbook. I gathered old photographs, letters, and little mementos that held stories of laughter, struggle, and love. Ethan, I said one sunny Saturday morning, I want you to help me with something special. His eyes sparkled with curiosity. What is it, Grandma? He asked, tilting his head slightly as he always did when he was intrigued. I smiled, pulling out a stack of blank pages. We're going to document our family stories together. This will be our legacy. His brows furrowed in thought, but he nodded slowly. Okay, but what do I have to do? You can add your own stories, I explained. Your own voice. We'll fill these pages with memories. Yours, mine, and those of our family. Over the weekends that followed, we sat together at the kitchen table, surrounded by colorful paper and a sea of photographs. I'd share tales of my childhood, stories of my parents, and the struggles they faced. I watched as Ethan listened, intently, his brow furrowing in concentration, his small fingers tracing the edges of the pictures. Did you really grow up without a phone, Grandma? He asked one day, eyes wide with disbelief. I chuckled softly, remembering the simplicity of those days. Yes, Ethan. We had to make our own fun. We played outside, climbed trees, and rode our bikes until the sun went down. His laugh echoed through the kitchen. That sounds kinda boring, I feigned offense, placing a hand over my heart. Boring? Oh no, it was an adventure. We had our own kind of magic. As we delved deeper into the scrapbook, I noticed how Ethan began to open up about his own life. One afternoon, he shared a story about being bullied at school. They called me names, Grandma. It hurt, he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. I reached over, placing my hand on his. I know it hurts, sweetheart, but remember, those words don't define you. You are so much more than what they say. He looked at me, searching for understanding. But how do I deal with it? I took a deep breath, remembering the lessons I had learned over the years. You stand tall. You show them your strength. You carry our family's legacy of resilience. You are capable of great things, Ethan. With each story we shared, I could see him absorbing not just the words, but the essence of our family. A tapestry woven with threads of love, resilience, and growth. He began to understand that our history wasn't just a collection of events, but a guide for navigating the complexities of the world around him. One day, while we were cutting out pictures from magazines to decorate our scrapbook, Ethan paused and looked at me seriously. Grandma, do you think I can be like you? Strong and wise? I smiled, my heart swelling with pride. You already are, Ethan. You just need to believe in yourself. As the scrapbook began to take shape, it became a beautiful representation of our bond. Page after page, we filled it with laughter, tears, and precious memories. I wanted him to see that our family's legacy was not just about where we came from, but about the love that binds us together. Can we add a page for my friends? He asked one day, his enthusiasm infectious. Absolutely. Let's write down what friendship means, I replied, and we spent hours discussing the importance of kindness, loyalty, and understanding. With each turn of the page, I felt our connection deepen. This project was more than just a scrapbook. It was an heirloom for future generations, a way to carry our values forward. I hoped that one day he would share it with his own children, just as I was sharing it with him. We sat together, surrounded by memories and dreams. And in those moments, I felt a sense of peace, knowing that I was passing down a legacy of love, one that would live on in Ethan's heart long after I was gone. As Ethan prepared to enter high school, I could sense a whirlwind of emotions swirling within him, excitement mixed with apprehension. I remember when I was his age, standing on the precipice of change, my heart racing with the unknown. I took a deep breath and said, Ethan, change is a part of life. It's like a river, always flowing, always shifting, and sometimes it brings new opportunities for growth. He looked at me, his brow furrowed, as if trying to understand the depths of my words. But what if I don't know anyone? What if I don't fit in? I smiled gently, tucking a loose strand of hair behind my ear. That's exactly why we have to talk about this. You know, all those moments we shared, the lessons learned from our experiences. They're not just memories, they're tools. Tools you can use to navigate this new chapter. He nodded, his gaze distant for a moment as he processed my words. Like when we talked about standing up for what's right? Exactly. Remember how we discussed peer pressure and staying true to yourself? It's important, even when it feels hard. I wanted him to grasp that integrity and empathy would be his guiding stars. You have the strength to face anything, Ethan, even when it feels like the world is pushing you in different directions. We strolled through the local park, the familiar sights surrounding us, the laughter of children, the rustling leaves, the scent of freshly cut grass. Each detail brought with it a wave of nostalgia, reminding me of the countless afternoons spent here, sharing stories and dreams. You know, when I was younger, I faced change too. I remember starting a new school, feeling lost and alone. But I found friends who accepted me for who I was. I learned that embracing change often leads to unexpected friendships and experiences. Ethan's eyes lit up, reflecting a mixture of curiosity and determination. Did you ever feel like you didn't belong? Of course, sweetheart. It's normal to feel that way. I had to remind myself that it was okay to be different. Those experiences shaped who I became, and they'll shape you too. He chuckled softly. You mean like crazy, Grandma? I laughed, shaking my head. That's right. But being crazy can be a good thing. It means being bold enough to be yourself, even when others might not understand. It's about embracing your quirks. With each step, I could feel his tension easing, replaced by a budding sense of confidence. I guess I do have my own quirks. Absolutely. And those quirks are what make you unique. Embrace them, Ethan. Don't let anyone make you feel less than who you are. His expression grew serious. What if I mess up? What if I make mistakes? Mistakes are part of life, my dear. They're merely stepping stones on the path to growth. You'll learn from them, just like you've learned from me. Remember, I'm always here for you, ready to listen and support you. As we continued our walk, I noticed a group of teenagers across the park, laughing and joking with each other. I pointed them out. Look at them. They're navigating their own changes too. You'll find your place among them, just as you have with friends before. I hope so, he murmured, glancing back at the group. You will, Ethan. You are resilient, and you carry the lessons of the past with you. Embrace the challenges ahead with an open heart and mind. The world is waiting for you. I could see determination blossoming in his eyes, and in that moment I felt a surge of hope for the future. He was ready to face the world with courage, and I couldn't have been prouder of the young man he was becoming. Would he truly embrace the changes ahead, or would the weight of expectation hold him back? High school was a whole new world for Ethan, and as I watched him step into it, my heart swelled with pride and anxiety. He was no longer my little boy. He was becoming a young man, and with that came challenges I could only hope to help him navigate. The first few weeks were a whirlwind of academic pressures and social dynamics, and I could see the weight of expectations pressing down on his shoulders. I suggested he keep a journal, a safe space where he could pour out his thoughts and feelings. It'll be like talking to a friend, I told him, one who won't judge. We made a pact to check in with each other regularly, a promise to remain connected even as life pulled us in different directions. I shared my own stories, my triumphs, my failures, and the moments where I felt completely lost. I wanted him to know that it was okay to struggle. After all, who among us hasn't faced moments of doubt? One evening, as we sat together on the porch, the sun setting in, a blaze of orange and pink, Ethan finally opened up. "I'm feeling overwhelmed, Grandma," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "What if I can't live up to what everyone expects of me? What if I fail?" I took a breath, searching for the right words. "Ethan, what matters most is that you're true to yourself. You don't need anyone's approval to be who you are. Don't let their expectations drown out your voice." His eyes met mine, uncertainty flickering within them. I continued. "Let's brainstorm some strategies. How about we make a list of things that help you cope with stress? It'll be our little project." He nodded, and together we began to jot down ideas. Deep breathing exercises, taking breaks during study sessions, maybe even joining a club where he could meet like-minded friends. As we talked, I could see a shift in him, a realization that he was not alone in this journey. I could almost feel the weight lifting, if only a little. You know, when I was your age, I had my own set of challenges. I didn't always fit in either," I said, my voice softening. "But I learned that the most important approval comes from within. If you stay authentic, the right people will gravitate toward you." Ethan smiled faintly, and for the first time in days I saw a spark of hope in his eyes. "Thanks, Grandma. I guess I just needed to talk it out." As I watched him write in his journal later that night, I felt a flicker of reassurance. I had been there, and I would continue to be there. Each word he penned was a step toward understanding himself better, a quiet rebellion against the fear that threatened to consume him. Even as I marveled at his growth, I found myself reflecting on my own journey. I had battled my own demons, fought for my voice in a world that often silenced the vulnerable. It was in those moments of struggle that I understood the true essence of resilience. "Ethan," I called softly, breaking the silence. "Remember that this is just the beginning. You will face challenges, but each one is a chance to grow. Embrace them." He looked up, a mixture of determination and uncertainty in his eyes. "I will, Grandma. I promise." And just like that, a bond was forged, a promise made in the quiet of our home. High school was going to be tough, but together, we would face whatever came our way. It was a crucial moment for him, and for me too. In that exchange, I was reminded that legacy isn't just about what we leave behind. It's about what we create in the here and now, together. One rainy afternoon, I found myself staring at an old box tucked away in the attic, its edges worn and faded. The moment I opened it, the scent of aged paper and dust enveloped me, pulling me into a time long past. Inside lay letters, photographs, and trinkets that told the stories of my life, pieces of a puzzle that shaped who I am today. "Ethan, come here!" I called out, my voice barely rising above the sound of raindrops pattering against the window. He appeared, curiosity lighting up his young face as he leaned over the box. "What's all this?" I smiled, sifting through the contents. "These are memories, sweetheart. Each one carries a story, a lesson from my past that I want to share with you." His eyes widened as I pulled out a faded letter, its edges yellowed and fragile. "This one is from your grandpa," I began, tracing the delicate script with my finger. "He wrote it during a tough time, when we lost everything. But his words, they remind me of resilience." "What does that mean?" Ethan asked, genuinely, intrigued. "It means you keep going, even when things get difficult. Life isn't always easy. It's full of ups and downs. But each experience helps us grow." As we continued, I shared tales of love. How I met his grandfather under a cherry blossom tree, their laughter mingling with the gentle breeze. I recounted the heartbreak of losing him, the weight of grief that felt insurmountable. But through that pain, I found the strength I didn't know I had. I learned to cherish the moments we shared. Ethan listened intently, his brow furrowed in concentration. "Did you ever feel like giving up?" "Of course," I responded softly. There were days when despair felt like an old friend. But I remembered the love we had, and it pushed me forward. I wanted to honor his memory by living fully. I reached for a small wooden box within the larger one. "And this is my treasure chest. Each of these trinkets represents a moment of triumph. Like this little medal. I earned it after running my first marathon. It was grueling, but crossing that finish line made me realize I could conquer anything." Ethan's gaze darted between the items and me. "You ran a marathon? That sounds hard." "It was, but sometimes the hardest paths lead to the greatest rewards," I replied, my heart swelling with pride. "Just like life itself. You'll face challenges, Ethan, but remember, they shape who you are. They make you stronger." He picked up a small tarnished locket from the box, examining it closely. "What's this one for?" "That belonged to your great-grandmother," I said, my voice thick with nostalgia. "She faced so much adversity in her life, yet she always found a way to rise above it. She taught me about hope. How to look for the light even in the darkest days." Ethan's expression shifted, a newfound understanding dawning on him. "So, I'm part of this story too." "Exactly! You are the latest chapter in our family saga," I affirmed. "Your journey is just beginning, and it's important to reflect on where you come from. It helps you know where you're going." As we packed the memories back into the box, I encouraged him. "Think about your own journey, Ethan. What kind of stories do you want to tell one day? How do you want to contribute to our family narrative?" He pondered this, a serious look etched on his face. "I want to make you proud, Grandma. I want my stories to be about helping others." I felt warmth bloom in my chest, a flicker of hope igniting in his words. "You already are, my dear. Just by listening and caring, you're weaving our past into something beautiful. Remember, our legacy is built on love, resilience, and kindness." The rain continued to fall, but in that moment, it felt like the clouds had parted, allowing light to seep into our hearts. As we closed the box, I realized that sharing these memories had not only brought us closer, but also sparked a flame of understanding in Ethan. "Can we do this again sometime?" he asked, his voice bright with enthusiasm. "Absolutely, Ethan. There's so much more to share," I replied, my heart swelling with gratitude. "Together, we'll keep our stories alive." I remember the day Ethan decided to start that support group. It was just a few weeks into his sophomore year, and I could see a shift in him. He was finding his voice, stepping out of the shadows of those high school hallways that once felt so daunting. When he called me, his voice bubbling with excitement, I felt a warmth spread through my heart. "Grandma, I want you to speak at our first meeting," he said. I couldn't help but smile, both proud and a little nervous. As I stepped into that room filled with eager young faces, I was struck by the energy radiating from them. They were a mix of anxious and hopeful, each carrying their own stories, their own burdens. The air was thick with potential, and I felt instantly connected to them. I took a deep breath, preparing to share my own journey, the lessons I had learned about empathy, compassion, and resilience. Ethan stood at the front, his presence commanding, yet warm. I watched as he facilitated the discussions, his voice steady and reassuring. "We all have a story," he said, encouraging his peers to share their experiences. Each tale, each struggle, echoed in the room like a heartbeat. I could see the vulnerability in their eyes, a reflection of the battles they faced daily. It was a proud moment, watching my grandson step into a role that was both new and familiar. "Sometimes it's hard to understand what someone else is going through," I said, looking around at the sea of attentive faces. "But that's why we're here, to listen, to learn, and to support one another." As I spoke, I could feel the weight of my own experiences pouring out. The memories of my childhood, the struggles I faced, the moments that shaped me. They all seemed to converge in that very room. Ethan chimed in. "My grandma taught me that empathy is like a bridge. It connects us to others, helping us understand their pain and joy alike." I could see his eyes scanning the room, encouraging others to engage. The discussions flowed naturally, and I felt a sense of fulfillment wash over me. This wasn't just about sharing my story. It was about creating a safe space for these young people to express themselves. I was reminded of the days when I felt isolated, the sting of loneliness that often accompanies feeling different. I shared those experiences, hoping to resonate with them. "I was that girl who didn't fit in," I said softly. "But I learned that our differences are what make us unique and valuable. It's our responsibility to lift each other up." As I continued to speak, I could see Ethan nodding in agreement, his pride shining through. The room was alive with conversation, laughter, and even tears. As the meeting drew to a close, Ethan invited everyone to take a moment of silence to reflect on what they had shared. I watched as he guided them, his heart swelling with purpose. This gathering was more than just a support group. It was a movement. It was a testament to growth, both for Ethan and for all those who attended. They were standing together, united in their struggles and victories. I felt a swell of hope. It wasn't just about what I had taught him, but about how he was transforming those lessons into something greater. As we wrapped up, Ethan approached me, his eyes shining with gratitude. "Thank you for being here, Grandma. It means a lot to me." In that moment, I realized our journey had come full circle. The lessons of love, resilience, and empathy were no longer just my own. They had become a legacy, a thread that wove through generations. And as I looked around at the faces of those young people, I knew we had planted a seed that would grow into something beautiful. In a world often overshadowed by division, we were fostering connection and understanding. This was just the beginning, and I couldn't wait to see where it would lead. As the school year came to a close, I found myself reflecting on the incredible journey that Ethan and I had taken together. It felt like just yesterday that he had called me crazy grandma in front of his friends. A moment that had stung but ultimately sparked something profound between us. Now, looking at him, I could hardly believe how much he had grown. He was no longer just my grandson. He had blossomed into a compassionate young man, ready to face the world with courage and empathy. One evening, as we sat together at the kitchen table, I suggested an idea that had been bubbling in my heart for some time. "Ethan," I began, my voice a mix of excitement and hope. "What if we host a community event, a gathering to celebrate kindness and share our stories?" He raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "What kind of event, Grandma?" "A space where people can come together, share their experiences, and connect," I explained. We can invite folks from the neighborhood, local organizations. It'll be a chance to spread a little love and understanding." Ethan pondered. My words, tapping his fingers on the table. "You really think people would come?" "Absolutely," I replied, leaning closer. "We can make it something special. Think about all the lessons we've learned this past year. We can inspire others, just like you've inspired me." His face lit up with a smile, and just like that, we began our planning. We worked tirelessly over the following weeks, spreading the word, organizing activities, and gathering stories from those who were willing to share. As the day of the event approached, I could feel a mix of anticipation and nervousness coiling in my stomach. Would it really resonate with people? The sun shone brightly on the day of the event, illuminating the park where we had set up tables, chairs, and a small stage for speakers. The atmosphere was electric with laughter and chatter as families began to arrive. I watched as Ethan moved through the crowd, engaging with the attendees, his confidence shining through. He had embraced his individuality, and it was beautiful to witness. "Hey, Grandma," he called out, waving me over. "Look at this. We have more people than I expected." My heart swelled as I took in the sight of our community coming together, united by stories of hope and resilience. I joined him, and together we welcomed everyone, sharing a brief introduction about the day's purpose. As the first speaker took the stage, I felt a wave of emotion wash over me. The man spoke about his struggles with addiction and how kindness from a stranger had sparked his journey toward recovery. I glanced at Ethan, who was transfixed by the man's words, his eyes reflecting a deep understanding. After the speaker finished, people began to share their own stories of heartbreak, triumph, and transformation. Each tale wove a tapestry of connection that resonated in the air around us. Laughter mingled with tears, and I could see how the event was fostering a sense of belonging among everyone present. I found myself in quiet moments, listening intently to each story shared, feeling the weight of each experience. There was a woman who had lost her job but found hope in starting her own business. A young girl spoke about overcoming bullying, and her courage moved everyone to tears. Each story reminded us that we were not alone in our struggles, and that kindness could light the way in the darkest of times. As the event drew to a close, I caught Ethan's eye. He was animated, already discussing ideas for our next gathering. "What if we do this quarterly, Grandma? We could invite even more speakers. People need to hear these stories." I smiled, my heart bursting with pride. "You're right, Ethan. This is just the beginning." We packed up as the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the park. I felt a sense of fulfillment wash over me, knowing that we had created something meaningful together. This was the legacy I had hoped to pass down, a legacy of love, understanding, and the courage to stand up for what is right. As I watched Ethan interact with our guests, I realized our journey was far from over. It was only the beginning of something much bigger than either of us could have imagined. As summer rolled in, I felt a gentle nudge in my heart, urging me to guide Ethan into a new chapter of his life. I wanted him to embrace this season, this time of growth, with open arms. I encouraged him to explore new interests, to chase after hobbies that would expand his horizons. So, we set out together, diving into the vibrant world around us. We visited local art galleries where the colors danced on the canvas like memories waiting to be discovered. Each brushstroke told a story, and I watched Ethan's eyes light up as he absorbed the creativity that surrounded him. At music festivals, the melodies wrapped around us, inviting us to lose ourselves in the rhythm of life. I wanted him to feel the pulse of the community, to understand that life is about exploration and continuous learning. One afternoon, as we strolled through the bustling streets after a community service project, he paused, his gaze lingering on a colorful mural. "Grandma, can I take an art class?" he asked, his voice filled with excitement. My heart swelled at his enthusiasm. "Of course, sweetheart. Art is a beautiful way to express yourself," I replied, encouraging him to pursue his passions. That evening, we found ourselves perched on a hill, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and pink. I turned to him, feeling a sense of pride wash over me. "Ethan, the world is full of possibilities waiting to be discovered. Always remember that. You have the power to forge your own path." He nodded, his expression thoughtful. I could see the gears turning in his mind, and I hoped he was beginning to understand the importance of nurturing his individuality. This was more than just a summer of activities. It was about planting seeds of confidence and creativity in his heart. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I felt a profound sense of joy, knowing that I had played a role in guiding him toward a future filled with promise. But beneath that joy lay a quiet worry. I reflected on how my own past experiences shaped my present, and I hoped to impart some of that wisdom to him. I wanted him to learn not just from my successes, but from my struggles as well. "Do you remember the stories I told you about my childhood?" I asked, my voice softening. "The challenges I faced. They taught me resilience, Ethan. Life won't always be easy, but it's in those tough moments that you'll find your true self." He looked at me with a mix of curiosity and concern. "Did you ever feel like giving up?" I took a moment, searching for the right words. "There were times I did, but I realized that every setback was a lesson in disguise. Each experience built me into who I am today. I want you to learn from my journey, but also to create your own." Ethan smiled at me, and I could see the spark of determination igniting within him. I knew he was ready to explore, not just the world around him, but also the depths of his own potential. As we sat in silence, watching the stars begin to twinkle in the night sky, I felt a sense of peace. This was just the beginning. Together, we were stepping into a new chapter, one filled with discovery, growth, and the promise of a bright future. I whispered to myself, what adventures lie ahead for my grandson? This summer, we would not just fill our days with activities. We would be crafting memories, building a legacy of love, courage, and exploration. I was determined to show Ethan that life was not only about the paths we choose, but also about the journeys we embark on together. As summer melted into the colors of fall, I found myself sitting across from Ethan, his journal lying open between us like a bridge to his past. It was a simple act, revisiting those pages filled with his thoughts, yet it felt monumental. "Ethan," I began, my voice steady. "Let's take a moment to reflect on everything that's happened this year." He looked up, his brow furrowed in concentration. "You mean, like, how I used to think you were, well, crazy?" I chuckled, softly, the memory still fresh. "Yes, exactly. But more than just that. I want you to think about how you've grown. What have you learned?" He flipped through the pages slowly, his fingers brushing against the ink, as if the words themselves held the answers. "I guess I learned that kindness matters, that it's not just a word, but something you have to show. I want to make a difference, Grandma. I want to be someone people can count on." His sincerity struck a chord deep within me. I nodded, encouraging him to continue. And what about the times we faced challenges? What did those moments teach you? Ethan paused, his eyes searching the pages. I learned that it's okay to ask for help. I used to think I had to do everything alone. But it's better when you have support. That's a valuable lesson, I affirmed, my heart swelling with pride. We all need each other. Remember when you stood up to those kids at school? You didn't just speak up for yourself. You spoke for others. That's the kind of impact you can have. He smiled, the memory energizing him. Yeah, I guess I did. It felt good to be brave. Bravery isn't just about big actions, Ethan. Sometimes it's in small, everyday choices. It's about showing empathy, advocating for others, and standing up for what's right. He nodded thoughtfully, the weight of my words settling in. I want to keep doing that. I want to inspire others to be kind. Then share your story. You've got a voice that can reach others. Use it. Ethan's eyes lit up at the idea, a spark igniting within him. You think I could really help people? Absolutely. Your journey can encourage those who feel lost or alone. You've been through challenges and come out stronger. That's something worth sharing. As we continued to flip through the pages, I noticed his maturity reflected in the way he articulated his thoughts. It was a testament to the growth he had undergone, not just as my grandson, but as a compassionate individual. Remember, Ethan, I said, my tone gentle yet firm. Self-reflection is a powerful tool. It helps us understand our past and shape our future. It allows us to recognize our values and the legacy we wish to leave behind. He looked up, a mix of determination and vulnerability in his gaze. What if I mess up along the way? Everyone does. It's not about perfection. It's about learning and adapting. It's how we transform our mistakes into stepping stones. Ethan took a deep breath, the weight of his aspirations settling within him. I want to be like you, Grandma. I want to advocate for kindness and empathy, just like you taught me. I felt a warmth spread through my chest, a bond forged in love and understanding. You already are, Ethan. Just by wanting to make a difference, you're on the right path. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting golden hues across the room, I realized that this moment of reflection wasn't just pivotal for him. It was a turning point for both of us. It reaffirmed our connection, highlighting the journey we had traveled together. In that shared space, surrounded by memories and hopes, I felt an overwhelming gratitude for the relationship we had built. Let's keep this journal going, I suggested. Let's document your journey and all the changes that come with it. It'll be a beautiful reminder of how far you've come. Ethan beamed, his enthusiasm infectious. Yeah, I can't wait to see what's next. And just like that, we embarked on a new chapter together, one filled with promise and the power of reflection. The air was thick with a mix of nostalgia and determination as Ethan and I gathered at the kitchen table, an old oak relic that had seen countless memories etched into its surface. I looked at him, my grandson, who had recently tossed around the words, "Crazy Grandma," to his friends, and I felt a twinge of sadness. I knew it was just a passing comment, made in jest, but it stung nonetheless. I wanted to show him that there was depth beneath the laughter, a history he could learn from. Ethan, I began, my voice steady but warm. Today I want to share something important with you. It's about resilience. I paused, watching his brows furrow slightly. Curiosity piqued. Resilience is the strength to rise again after you've been knocked down. It's about how we respond to life's challenges. He leaned in, a sign that he was listening, and I took a breath, ready to reveal the tapestry of my life woven with struggles and triumphs. You see, life isn't always easy. I faced my share of hardships, from losing loved ones to facing discrimination. Each obstacle taught me something valuable. They shaped me into who I am today. Ethan's expression shifted from mild interest to something deeper, a flicker of understanding sparking in his eyes. But Grandma, how did you keep going? It sounds exhausting. I chuckled softly, knowing there was truth in his words. It is exhausting, Ethan. But every setback was an opportunity to grow. I learned that when I fell, I had to get back up, dust myself off, and keep moving forward. Life will throw challenges your way. That's inevitable. But what matters is how you choose to respond. I could see him processing my words. So it's like, you have to see the silver lining in the storm? Exactly, I thought. Yes, life is a series of storms, and it's up to us to find that silver lining. Embrace your mistakes. They are your greatest teachers. Remember the time you tripped over your own feet at the school play? Ethan burst out laughing, the memory clearly, vivid. Yeah, I thought I'd die of embarrassment. Yet here you are laughing about it now, I said, my heart warming at the sight of his joy. That's what I mean. You learned something from that moment. It's all about perspective. When you encounter difficulties, ask yourself what you can learn from them. That's resilience. As we spoke, I felt a surge of inspiration. I wanted him to visualize his dreams, to see the potential that lay ahead. Let's create a vision board together, I suggested, excitement bubbling within me. We can fill it with your dreams and aspirations, what you want your future to look like. Ethan's eyes lit up at the idea. Can we put a picture of a rocket ship? I want to be an astronaut. Absolutely. Let's make it as colorful and vibrant as your dreams, I replied, a smile spreading across my face. We gathered magazines, scissors, and glue, and for the next hour we cut, pasted, and laughed together. Each image we chose sparked conversations about his hopes, his fears, and everything in between. As we created, I felt our bond strengthen, each moment a thread weaving our lives closer together. Ethan, remember that this board is a reminder of who you want to be. Life will try to steer you off course, but you have the power to navigate your own path. He nodded solemnly, the weight of my words sinking in. I promise to remember that, Grandma. I looked at him, my heart swelling with pride. Good. And always remember, resilience is not just about enduring. It's about thriving through the struggles. As we finished our vision board, I caught a glimpse of determination in his eyes, and I knew we had shared something profound. This moment, this lesson on resilience, would stay with him long after I was gone. I felt a mix of pride and hope for the future that lay ahead for him. As the school year drew to a close, I found myself reflecting on the journey Ethan and I had taken together. It felt like just yesterday when he timidly approached me, the weight of his words hanging heavy in the air. Crazy Grandma, he had called me to his friends, and I couldn't help but feel the sting. But now, that moment felt like a distant memory, a mere stepping stone towards something much more profound. Ethan and I sat together on our porch, the sun casting a warm glow over our small garden. I looked at him, my heart swelling with pride and gratitude. Ethan, I said, my voice steady but filled with emotion. Let's make a promise today. No matter what happens, we'll be there for each other. Through every challenge, every triumph, we'll stand side by side." He nodded, his eyes sparkling with the innocent determination of youth. "I promise, Grandma, we'll take on the world together." His enthusiasm was infectious, igniting a sense of hope within me. I reminded him that our bond was a testament to the power of love and understanding. "You know, this connection we have, it's a source of strength for you. Whenever you feel lost or uncertain, remember how far we've come together. You carry that with you, Ethan. It's a part of who you are." The air was thick with the scent of blooming flowers, wrapping us in a cocoon of nostalgia. I couldn't help but think of all the stories I had shared with him, the laughter and the tears. Each tale was a thread weaving into the fabric of our lives, binding us together in ways I had never imagined. "Can we invite the family over?" Ethan asked, his voice filled with excitement. "I want to share everything we've learned." I smiled widely, feeling the warmth of his enthusiasm radiate through me. "Of course! We'll have a family gathering. I want everyone to hear about our experiences, the importance of storytelling, of connection." As we planned the gathering, I felt a deep sense of gratitude for the transformation we had undergone together. It wasn't just about overcoming that moment of name-calling. It was about building a bridge of mutual respect and understanding. I had watched Ethan grow, not just in stature but in character. He was becoming someone who would navigate the world with empathy, resilience, and love. When the day of the gathering arrived, the house buzzed with energy. Family members filled the rooms, laughter and chatter creating a symphony of warmth. As I prepared to share our story, I felt a mix of nervousness and excitement. I stood before them, Ethan by my side, and took a deep breath. "Everyone," I began, looking around at the familiar faces. "Ethan and I have been on quite a journey this year. We've learned that our bond is more than just family. It's a legacy of love and understanding," Ethan chimed in, his voice steady. "I used to think it was embarrassing to have a grandma who was different, but now I see how special it is. She taught me so many lessons about life." The room went quiet, all eyes on us, and in that moment, I felt an overwhelming sense of pride. As we shared our experiences, I could see the impact of our words. Family members leaned in, their expressions shifting from casual interest to genuine engagement. Afterward, we gathered in smaller groups, sharing stories that echoed through the years, a tapestry of memories, lessons, and love. I watched Ethan interact with his cousins, his laughter ringing out like a melody, and my heart soared. This was the legacy I wanted to leave him, a reminder that connection and understanding are the foundations of resilience. As the evening wore on, I embraced Ethan tightly, feeling the warmth of his spirit. "Are you ready to take on the world?" I asked, my voice filled with hope. He grinned, a beacon of determination. "More than ever, Grandma. I've got you by my side." In that embrace, I felt a promise being solidified between us, a promise for the future, one that would guide him through life, reminding him of the strength found in love, memory, and transformation. Our journey was just beginning, and I could sense the excitement for what lay ahead. As the new school year approached, I found myself reflecting on the whirlwind of changes that had swept through Ethan's life and our relationship. I sat down with him one afternoon, the sunlight streaming through the window, illuminating the soft dust motes dancing in the air. I wanted to make sure he understood how pivotal this moment was. "Ethan," I began, my voice steady but warm, High school is just around the corner. It's a big leap, and I want you to embrace every opportunity that comes your way. Each experience will shape who you are becoming." He looked at me, a mix of excitement and apprehension in his eyes. "But what if I don't fit in? What if I don't like my classes?" How familiar those fears were to me. Oh, sweetheart, I felt the same way when I first stepped into high school. It was daunting, but it turned out to be one of the most transformative times of my life. You'll meet new friends and discover interests you never knew you had. Just be open to change. Ethan nodded slowly, the wheels in his mind clearly turning. "I guess you're right, Grandma. I've heard high school is supposed to be fun. It can be, but it's also a time for growth. Remember when I told you about moving to the city when I was your age?" He chuckled, recalling my stories. "Yeah, you said you were scared and lonely at first." "Exactly. But those feelings pushed me to reach out, to try new things. I joined clubs, made new friends, and learned to adapt. Each step taught me something valuable. You know, every change carries the potential for personal growth. You just need to be willing to take that step." Taking a deep breath, he leaned back in his chair, contemplating my words. "I'm excited about my classes. I want to do well, and I hope I'll make friends who like the same things I do." I couldn't help but smile at his enthusiasm. That's the spirit. The journey can be just as important as the destination. It's about who you become along the way. I believe in you, Ethan. You have so much potential. "Thanks, Grandma. It means a lot to me," he said, his voice tinged with sincerity. "Always remember that I'm here for you. No matter how tough things may seem, you'll never have to face them alone. We're in this together, and I'll support you every step of the way." He grinned, and for a moment I saw a glimpse of the man he would become. Confident, resilient, and filled with promise. As we prepared for the school year ahead, I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride swelling in my heart. This was more than just a transition. It was a time of growth, transformation, and discovery. I was honored to be part of his journey, to witness his evolution into someone who could face life's challenges with courage and integrity. "Grandma, do you think I'll be okay?" he asked, a hint of vulnerability in his voice. I reached across the table, placing my hand over his. "You will be more than okay, Ethan. You'll thrive. Just remember to be kind, work hard, and stay true to yourself. That's what matters most." With that, the conversation shifted to the supplies he needed for school and how he wanted to decorate his room. But in the back of my mind, I knew this was just the beginning of a new chapter for both of us. Life was full of unexpected turns, and while the road ahead might be filled with uncertainties, the impact of change could lead to extraordinary growth. As I watched him talk about his future, I felt a surge of hope. This was a time to cherish, a moment to celebrate. Together we would navigate this new terrain, and I would be right there beside him, cheering him on as he embraced the adventure that lay ahead. As we stepped into a new school year, I felt a surge of hope mixed with trepidation. It was a moment that marked not just the turning of a calendar page, but a new chapter in Ethan's life. A chapter we had written together, hand in hand. I looked at him, with his backpack slung over one shoulder, ready to face the world outside, our front door. He had grown so much, I thought, a mix of pride and nostalgia welling up in my chest. "Ethan," I began, choosing my words carefully. "This year is important. It's a chance for you to carry forward everything we've talked about. Those lessons of courage and resilience." He shrugged, his eyes darting across the street, where other kids were gathering, exchanging laughter and stories I could sense his reluctance, the weight of social pressures already creeping in. "Mom, you know it's just school, right? I don't want to be the crazy grandma's boy in front of my friends," he muttered, half joking but with a hint of seriousness. I chuckled softly, but there was a bittersweet edge to my laughter. Well, maybe crazy isn't such a bad thing. It's those who dare to stand out who make a difference. Think about it. Who do you admire? Who has inspired you? He paused, his face turning thoughtful. I don't know. Maybe some of the teachers. They really care about us. Exactly. That is courage, I said, leaning in closer. It takes guts to show empathy and kindness, especially in a world that sometimes feels divided. You can be that person. Someone who stands up for others, who creates ripples of change. He shifted his weight, clearly wrestling with my words. I could see the internal conflict in his eyes. Did he want to embrace this idea? Or would he rather blend in? "Mom, it's not always easy," he said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. "Life isn't easy, Ethan. But think of the stories I've shared with you. The ones about those who stood up for what was right, who faced adversity and still chose to be brave. I could feel the warmth of those memories wash over me. Remember Mr. Thompson, how he rallied the community to help that family after the fire? Or Ms. Rivera, who fought for the art program to stay alive?" Ethan nodded slowly, still deep in thought. "Yeah, I remember. They did make a difference." "Exactly, and you can do that too. You have the power to inspire those around you. You can be brave, just like them." He looked up at me, a flicker of determination breaking through his uncertainty. "But what if I mess up? What if no one listens?" "Then you learn. That's how we grow. Trust me, I've had my share of failures, but each one taught me something valuable." I paused, hoping to instill some of my resolve into him. "Remember, it's not about perfection. It's about progress. And every small act of kindness can create a chain reaction." I watched as he processed my words, and I felt a glimmer of hope. The bond we had nurtured through our shared experiences was blossoming into something beautiful. "I'll try," he said at last, his voice steadying. "That's all I ask," I replied, my heart swelling with pride. "Just try. And remember, you're never alone in this. I'll always be here, cheering you on." As we made our way to school, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. This journey we had taken together was more than just a mother-son relationship. It was a legacy of courage, love, and growth. I was grateful for every moment, every lesson learned, knowing that our bond had transformed us both. With a heart full of hope, I watched Ethan embrace his future, ready to leave his mark on the world. As I sat on the porch, the sun dipping low in the sky, I found myself reflecting on our journey, Ethan and me. It felt surreal how a few careless words could spark such a profound change in our relationship. "Crazy grandma," he had called me, dismissing my age with a laugh shared among his friends. But beneath the sting of those words lay a deeper truth, and it was time for him to understand that. Life isn't just about the moments we live, but the lessons we learn and pass on. I turned to him with a gentle smile. "Ethan, you know, every experience we have shapes who we are and who we'll become. It's like a circle, a cycle of life. We're not just living for ourselves. We're creating a legacy." He looked at me, curiosity dancing in his eyes, unsure of where I was heading. I continued. "You have so much to share with the world. Your insights, your dreams. I want you to think about your future self. What do you hope for? What values do you want? To uphold? I could see the gears turning in his mind as he absorbed my words. Maybe you could write a letter to yourself, I suggested. Outline your hopes, your dreams, the lessons you've learned. It could help you remember what's truly important. I watched as a spark of excitement flickered across his face. The idea seemed to resonate with him. Like a time capsule? He asked, a bit more animated now. Exactly! A time capsule of your thoughts. It's not just about looking back, it's about moving forward with purpose. I leaned back, letting the warmth of the setting sun wrap around us as I let my own memories surface. Moments of love, pain, and growth that had shaped my life. As he began to write, I felt a sense of fulfillment. Each stroke of the pen carried the weight of our shared experiences, our laughter, and even the tears we had shed together. I remembered the times I shared my stories with him, the tales of my own childhood, the lessons learned from my own mistakes. Each story was a thread weaving the fabric of our legacy, connecting us not only to each other, but to every generation that came before us. Grandma, he said, looking up from his paper. Why do you think storytelling is so important? I smiled, grateful for the depth of his question. Because, Ethan, stories preserve our memories and values. They remind us of where we came from and help us understand who we are. They connect us to our roots and to each other. When you share your story, you pass on the wisdom you've gained. He nodded, his brow furrowing in concentration as he returned to his letter. I could see him pouring his heart into it, and I felt a swell of pride. This wasn't just about him. It was about creating a better world for those who would come after us. As he wrote, I couldn't help but think of the struggles he would face in life. The world can be harsh, filled with challenges that test our resolve. But I firmly believed that if he carried compassion and empathy in his heart, he would rise above. It was my responsibility to guide him, to ensure that he understood the importance of kindness and understanding. I could see him wrestling with his thoughts, pausing to think carefully about each word. It was in these moments that I realized how much he had grown, how our relationship had evolved from one of confusion to one of mutual respect. I want to be someone who makes a difference, Grandma, he finally said, his voice steady. I want to help people, just like you've helped me. Those words filled me with hope. I knew then that despite the trials ahead, he was ready to take on the world. He was prepared to carry forward the legacy of love and understanding we had created together. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. Our journey had prepared him for a life of purpose, and I was grateful to witness it. It's amazing how a single word can change everything. When Ethan called me crazy grandma to his friends, I felt a mix of shock and heartbreak, but it marked a turning point for us. As the days turned into weeks, we embarked on a journey of transformation that neither of us could have anticipated. Our relationship had been strained, filled with misunderstandings and the distance that often comes with generational gaps. But through our shared experiences, we began to peel away the layers of hurt and confusion, revealing a bond strengthened by love and respect. I remember sitting with him one afternoon, the sun casting warm rays through the window, illuminating the dust motes swirling in the air. It was a moment of clarity, a chance to discuss the lessons we had learned together. I looked him in the eyes and said, Ethan, our family history is like a tapestry, woven with stories of struggle and triumph. It's important to embrace our differences, to see them as threads that enhance our unique journeys. He nodded, his brow furrowed in thought, and I could see him processing the weight of my words. But Grandma, he hesitated, why should it matter? Everyone else is different too. I smiled gently, appreciating his curiosity. Exactly! And that's the beauty of it. Each of us carries a story that deserves to be told and shared. When you honor your past, you build a stronger future. I could feel the atmosphere shift as he absorbed my message, the walls he had built around his understanding beginning to crumble. I encouraged him to carry these lessons into every aspect of his life. I knew that, as he ventured out into the world, he would face challenges that would test his character and resolve. I wanted him to remember that it's not just about overcoming obstacles, but about how he approaches them, with courage and empathy, armed with the understanding of our family's legacy. In those moments of reflection, I felt overwhelming joy. I realized how much our experiences had forged a foundation for him to build upon. It was more than just a lesson on respect. It was about cultivating a heart that is open to learning from others, regardless of their backgrounds. I wanted him to see that the world was vast, filled with diverse perspectives that could enrich his own life. As we prepared to face the future together, I reminded him, life will continue to throw challenges your way. You'll encounter people who may not understand you or your story, but remember, every experience is a chance to grow. He leaned back, deep in thought, and I could sense the weight of our conversation settling in. But what if I fail, Grandma? He asked, vulnerability creeping into his voice. Failure is just a stepping stone, Ethan. It's not the end. It's part of the journey. Every misstep teaches us something valuable. I could see the flicker of determination in his eyes as he processed my words. This journey was just the beginning, I thought, and I couldn't wait to see where it would take him. I envisioned him stepping out into the world, equipped with the tools of compassion and resilience. I wanted him to embrace every moment, to cherish the lessons learned from both triumph and trial. As we sat together, I realized that my role was not just to guide him, but to also learn from him. Our bond had shifted from one of authority to partnership, where we could share our fears and hopes without judgment. I felt a sense of fulfillment knowing that I had played a part in his transformation. Ethan, I said softly, never forget that you are loved, not just by me, but by our family, those who came before us. Carry that love with you. He smiled, and I could see a glimpse of the young man he was destined to become. The future was uncertain, but I felt confident that he was ready to embrace it. How far could we go together? I wondered, as we continued our journey of transformation. As I sat down to savor the moments we shared, a rush of emotions enveloped me. I reflected on how love had transformed our lives, the simple act of caring intertwining our fates. Ethan, my grandson, was growing up so fast, and I wanted him to understand that love was the foundation of our journey. It had guided us through the storms and the sunshine, through every challenge and triumph we faced together. Ethan, I began, leaning closer. Do you remember the time we helped Mrs. Jenkins in the neighborhood? You were so proud of the garden we planted for her. He nodded, a smile creeping onto his face, perhaps remembering the way the sun painted, the flowers in brilliant colors, and how Mrs. Jenkins had beamed at us with gratitude. That was love in action. I continued, my voice soft, yet firm. It's what makes us who we are, what empowers us to embrace our true selves. It inspires us to uplift those around us. His eyes sparkled with understanding, but I wanted him to grasp the weight of my words fully. I took a deep breath, letting the warmth of our connection fill the space between us. You see, love isn't just an emotion. It's a powerful force, Ethan. It can change lives. He seemed to ponder my words, and I could tell he was processing the depth of what I was saying. It was essential for him to know that being kind, being a beacon of light in this sometimes dark world, was a legacy worth carrying forward. "We need to spread kindness," I said, excitement bubbling within me. "Let's make a plan. We can do small acts of service or even just be there for someone who needs us. Remember how lonely Mr. Thompson felt after his wife passed? A simple conversation could mean the world to him." Ethan nodded, a newfound determination in his eyes. I could see the gears turning as he contemplated the impact of our actions. "What if we organized a community event? Like a day where we help people with their yards or just spend time with those who feel alone?" His enthusiasm warmed my heart. "Exactly!" I exclaimed. "We could create a ripple effect of love and kindness." As we brainstormed ideas, I could feel the weight of our shared journey pressing against my chest. It was beautiful to see Ethan growing into someone who understood the importance of our legacy, our memories, and how they shaped our identities. "Love is like a thread," I explained, "weaving together the fabric of our lives. Every act of kindness is a stitch that strengthens it. We can't forget that." Ethan looked at me, his expression serious yet hopeful. "I want to honor our journey, Grandma. I want to be part of something bigger." "Then let's do it together, my dear," I replied, my heart swelling with pride. "Let's show others that love doesn't just live in our hearts. It lives in our actions." As we finalized our plans, I felt a profound connection to him, a bond strengthened by our shared mission. We were not just a grandmother and grandson. We were partners in a quest to make our community a better place, one act of kindness at a time. With this plan in place, I realized that this was more than just about spreading love. It was about building a legacy that would resonate far beyond our little family. We were creating a ripple effect of compassion that could inspire others to join us, to also embrace the power of love. And as I looked at Ethan, I knew that I had succeeded in showing him how transformative love could be, not just for us, but for everyone we touched. "Shall we get started?" I asked, my heart brimming with excitement. "Absolutely," he replied, a grin lighting up his face. In that moment, I understood that our journey was far from over. We were just beginning to harness the power of love, and I was eager to see where it would take us. As I looked toward the future, I felt a profound realization wash over me. Our journey together had evolved into something far greater than just a personal transformation. It was a legacy that would endure through generations. I turned to Ethan, feeling a swell of pride as I encouraged him to share his story with others. "You know, Ethan," I said, "your voice matters. You have the power to inspire people to embrace their unique identities and advocate for kindness." We sat together, the warmth of the afternoon sun spilling into the room, and discussed how our family history had shaped us. I shared stories of my own struggles, the lessons learned through hardship, and how they had laid the foundation for the values we held dear. "Remember, it's not just about what we inherit," I continued, "but what we choose to pass on." Ethan listened intently, his eyes reflecting the weight of our conversation. "But Grandma, how can I make a difference?" he asked, uncertainty creeping into his voice. I reached out, placing my hand over his. "By being yourself, by standing up for what is right, and by helping others find their voices too. We all have a part to play in this world. It's a big place, but together we can create a harmonious one." The air was thick with emotion, and I could see the gears turning in his mind. We spoke about the injustices we'd witnessed, the moments when kindness had triumphed over cruelty. I wanted him to know that these lessons were not just for him, they were for all of us. As we prepared to celebrate our journey with family and friends, I reminded him, "This is not just an ending, Ethan. It's a new beginning. We have so much to look forward to." He nodded, a newfound determination in his eyes. "I want to share our story. I want others to know that it's okay to be different, that kindness can change lives." "Yes," I exclaimed, feeling a surge of hope. "That's the spirit. Our legacy will live on in the hearts of those we touch. It is a promise to carry forward the values of love, empathy, and resilience." We spent the next few days preparing for the gathering, sharing our thoughts and ideas about how to present our journey. I wanted Ethan to understand that every story matters and every voice deserves to be heard. As the day approached, I found myself reflecting on the memories that shaped us. The laughter, the tears, the moments that brought us closer. Each memory was a thread in the tapestry of our lives, and I felt a deep sense of nostalgia. "Ethan," I said one evening, my voice softer, "do you remember the time we took that road trip to the coast? You were so small, but you sang the loudest in the car." He chuckled. "I thought I was a rock star." "You still are," I affirmed, smiling at the joy in his eyes. "Your passion for life is what will inspire others. Never lose that." As our family and friends gathered, the atmosphere was filled with warmth and anticipation. I took a deep breath, looking at the faces of those who had supported us, who had witnessed our growth. Today we celebrate not just our journey, but the journeys of all the incredible individuals who have influenced our lives. Remember, every voice matters, and together we can create a better world. Ethan stood beside me, and I could see the confidence radiating from him. As we shared our story, I knew that our legacy was not just in the words we spoke, but in the hearts we touched. And in that moment, I felt a deep sense of peace. We had transformed pain into purpose, and I was certain that our lessons would continue to ripple through time, inspiring future generations to embrace their true selves and advocate for kindness. Will our legacy truly inspire those who come after us? Up next, we have 2 more incredible stories that are waiting for you. Just click the image you want to watch, and it will take you there. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe. It would mean a lot.